Looking for a plate of Mee Rebus like those found in Malaysia or Singapore at Malay stores? Well, this is the recipe that you're looking for. The gravy is thick, flavorful, and really delicious. I kid you not, you have to stay on to check out this recipe. There are many different types of Mee Rebus found throughout Malaysia. Now, this is the very basic type of Mee Rebus that you get at most Malay stores. Now, I can't wait to show you the steps to prepare and also the tips and tricks. Now, the whole recipe is found in the description box where I have a link to my website, and let's begin cooking. When we talk about the authenticity of Mee Rebus, just like those found in Malay stores, it begins with this. And this is beef. Yes, it uses beef broth, and for those of you who do not use beef or do not eat beef, then you can replace it with chicken broth. But just to remind you, it's not going to be as authentic as those found in Malay stores. So for this recipe, I'm going to use beef. There are some bones that comes along with it. You can just use the meat itself if you like, but I like to have some bones too, just to get more flavors. I am going to add the beef to it, so very carefully place it in. Now for the exact measurements, as always, refer to nyonyacooking.com, or the link is in the description box where you'll find the full recipe with more tips and tricks. So let's just have the beef boil. Reduce the heat to the minimum, and I like to use my trusted cast iron pot because it makes the best broth. We're going to reduce the heat and then let it just boil for about 30 minutes. And meanwhile, there's a lot of other things to do, so let's move on. The soup of Mee Rebus is rather thick and it comes from sweet potatoes. Now you can use normal potatoes, purple potatoes. Sweet potatoes are the more generic option to choose, and I love using them because it brings a little sweetness as well. So all you need to do now is to either boil or steam it, and I prefer to steam. Let me tell you why. First, we remove the skin. Don't forget to remove any spots you see on the sweet potato. Now once the skin has been removed, all you need to do now is to cut them into smaller pieces, and this will help in the steaming process to keep the time shorter. So here, just small pieces. Once they're all cut into smaller pieces, we are going to steam them as I've mentioned. This carefully, and that's about it. So you're going to steam them until the sweet potatoes are really soft, and that means when you put a fork or a knife, it will go through very easily. While the broth is cooking and the sweet potatoes are steaming, I'm going to blend shallots and also garlic. So here I have some shallots. All you need to do, cut them into smaller pieces just to ease the blending process. You can pound them too if you have the energy, but I'm using a food processor here. Don't forget the garlic. So you're going to blend them until they become really pureed. Now this is not really fine yet, and that's why I'm just going to add a few tablespoons of water just to help the blender or the food processor here to really blend it finely. Remove the blended shallots and also garlic, and then we are going to add dried shrimps. Dried chilies. Now these dried chilies have been already washed, and I've also removed the seeds. Now if you want to know how to deal with red chilies to ensure that they are not too spicy, because I always cook chili food that are not really spicy, and there are some tricks to it, so the link is again in the description box. Here I have 1 lemongrass. We're just going to chop it into smaller pieces because that would help in blending. And then galanga and also candle nut. Once again, I'm just going to add a few tablespoonfuls of water, and then we are going to blend this again until it really turns into a puree. So So this has been also blended. Now normally I would blend the shallots and garlic along with the chilies and the rest of the ingredients. But today I'm just being a bit picky because generally onions and garlic, they take a little longer to cook, and you really want the ingredients to be fragrant. And the best way to get the flavors out of shallots and garlic is to first fry them or stir fry them in the pan later. Once all the blended ingredients are ready, we'll move on to the pan. And over here I'm going to add a bit of oil, and this is the oil that will be used to saute the blended ingredients until they're fragrant, or in Malay we call these blended ingredients rempah. And of course, if you've watched my video, you know that we have to cook them until it's pecah minyak, and that means that the oil will be separating from the blended ingredients of the chilies. I'll show you that later. We're going to heat the oil over medium heat, and once it's hot, you can feel it from the surface as you hover on the surface of the pan. Do not touch the surface, it's going to be really hot. We are going to place the shallots and also garlic very carefully. The heat should not be too high or else it will burn the blended ingredients. So we're going to saute these blended ingredients until it's fragrant, and it's really okay to use this kind of spatula because it's silicone, it's made out of silicone that can sustain heat. Take about a minute or so until you really smell it, you know it. Once you smell it, and you can see the color of the shallots and also garlic has already changed about to be slightly translucent, and that's when we are going to add the rest of the ingredients which we have blended earlier. Once again, we're going to saute this until, as I've mentioned, pecah minyak. Now that the oil separates from the blended ingredients, that means it's ready, and that's when we are going to add 2 more ingredients, and that would be tauchu or fermented soybean. Now this would give some saltiness and also really the umami flavor to Mee Rebus that we all love. And the reason why I'm really sauteing this is to bring the flavors out. The next thing that we're going to add would be curry powder. So I'm just going to add a bit of water just to make it into a paste. So this is meat curry powder, which is widely found in Malaysia or Singapore if you go to the wet market or even in supermarkets. For those of you who are not located in Malaysia or Singapore, you can opt for different types of curry powder mixture, which consists mostly chili powder. I have all the tips written on the website. As usual, visit the link to know more. Once again, saute this until it's really mixed, and you would also see that the color of the paste would change, and that's what we want, so the flavors are all coming through. Now that the paste is ready, I'm just going to set it aside because we are going to mash the sweet potatoes. Now you can use a fork or potato masher like what I have over here, and carefully, lightly just press it down. Once the sweet potatoes are all mashed, we are going to just leave it aside because we are going to take a look at the broth. So over here, the broth has been cooking for about 30 minutes. And you'll notice that the broth is also very clear, and that's because we cooked it at low heat. So remember to cook the water until it's really boiling at the highest heat, and the moment once you put in the beef, you can reduce the heat to the lowest and just let it slowly cook, so then the flavors will really be all out. What you can also do is to cut the meat into bite-sized pieces. The last thing that I'll do is just to remove any impurities at the top layer of the broth. Now when it comes to oil, that is why it is very important to remove whatever fats that you get from the beef, so that the broth itself will not be too oily. Right now I'm just going to increase the heat so that it starts boiling again, and when it starts boiling, we are going to add the paste which we have already sauteed earlier, and also the mashed potatoes. Now everything, it's really coming together. I can smell it in my kitchen, and only if you can smell it. So let's just let this boil again, and then we can add all the other ingredients. So we're going to stir it until the paste is really incorporated in the broth, and once that's done, we have the last step, which is to add the sweet potatoes. Now that the ingredients are all combined, I am just going to continue stirring and we are going to cook this at low heat, low to medium heat, just to ensure that it thickens, because the gravy to Mee Rebus is very thick, or it's rather thick, I'd say. If you know pumpkin soup, it's very similar to that consistency, and that's what we are going for. Once you notice that the gravy is thickened, and that's when we can start adding salt and sugar. I like to add salt and sugar at the end because then we get to control the texture and the consistency, and also the flavors of sweetness and saltiness. So reduce this to low heat, then we're going to add a bit of salt and also sugar. The gravy is ready, and that's when here I am going to plate. So this is actually egg noodles, and we use this in Malaysia, Singapore. When it comes to Mee Rebus, you use wheat noodles with egg, and in Malaysia it's slightly yellow in color. We call it yellow noodles too sometimes. So to the noodles, I've already softened them. I've cooked them in hot water. Now cook until it's soft, not al dente like how you do it with Italian pasta. What I'm going to do right now is to pour the gravy onto the noodles. Do keep stirring as you scoop the gravy out to the noodles, because the blended ingredients and also sweet potato will tend to settle down on the surface of the pot. So that's why I keep stirring. We have plated the gravy and also the noodles. Now when it comes to Mee Rebus, of course, we need to have some garnishing. So here I have all the garnishing that you usually have on Mee Rebus. So we have green chilies, some fried shallots. Now to make really awesome fried shallots that you can have at home and you do not need to buy, really crispy and beautiful, check out the link in the description box of the website nyonyacooking.com. Over here I have some fried tofu, so fried firm tofu, not soft tofu, and also some boiled egg slices. And not to forget some lime, because a squeeze of lime would make a big difference to your Mee Rebus. Here I also have some blanched bean sprouts. So just place them all onto the noodles. And not forgetting lime. There you go, the plate of Mee Rebus is ready. It looks so good and it reminds me of home. I have also some beef pieces. If you like, you can add it along. Just to show you, this is how it looks like. Before we dig in, I just really want to show you the tenderness of the meat. So let's take a look. Now just using chopsticks, okay? Look at this. It's really tender. So good. So guys, to get tender beef, I would highly recommend getting a cast iron pot. Now if you can't see from my smile, I'm really excited because Mee Rebus is one of my favorite noodles that I get in Malaysia all the time, especially when I know that it's really delicious because of the thickness of the gravy. That's what I really love about it. So now without further ado, I have to try it. It's the taste test as usual. We have to press a bit of lime. In Malaysia or Singapore, they use calamansi. Over here in Germany, I have to use lime, and that serves the purpose just to add a bit of sourness to the noodles. Now let's just mix it. Whoa, you get all the chunks of gravy because it's so thick in between the noodles. My mouth is watering. Okay. Wow, this is so good. Well, first of all, it's really good. This recipe you must try. Let's just talk about the flavors that you get from the gravy. The gravy is thick just like how you would know Mee Rebus. The next thing, you get the spiciness from the chili, but it's not too spicy, it's just mild. I really love how the sweet potatoes taste in this dish, because you won't really taste the natural flavors of sweet potato, but it is really spiced up, so you would get the sweetness of it. It really comes through, but not too sweet. It's just nice. Let's take a look again. Look at this. It's so beautiful. I'm so proud of myself. Guys, this is the top recipe request Mee Rebus that you guys have been asking. Over 100 of you have been asking for this. This is the recipe that you have been requesting for. For more recipe requests, head on to nyonyacooking.com/request, and that's where you get to vote for recipes, what we should cook next. You decide. I hope you have enjoyed this video and recipe as much as I have enjoyed cooking this and also tasting it. I can't wait to taste and really enjoy the whole plate of noodles. Now, if you have not subscribed to Nyonya Cooking, what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button in below and I cannot wait to show you more recipes like this in our next few videos. Until then, as always, I wish you happy cooking.